With modern digital recording, we're used to using a laptop and an audio interface, or a computer and audio interface. Now in Logic, you can have up to 1,000 audio tracks in any one project now. It used to be 256, but it's recently been upped. How many you can record at once, though, depends on how many channels you have on your audio interface. So we have an 8-channel, but most studios can record at least 16 to 32 tracks at once, or even more. If we rewind to pre-1970, we have the 4-track tape machine. This meant that you could record 4 tracks at once. So that's 4 microphones into the tape machine that you could then record. And that was it. You then only had 4 tracks that you could use. However, that isn't exactly true. Bands like the Beatles used reduction mixing to increase the amount of tracks they could seemingly have in one song. This process involved bouncing down all the 4 tracks to just one of the tracks and then recording again using the other 3. If you wanted to do any editing, you would have to physically cut the tape, which was a very difficult process. And this is known as destructive editing because there was no undo button once you had done it. So the advantage of having more tracks, you can use close miking techniques to capture every detail of the part of an instrument or of all different instruments that you're recording. You'll be able to record large ensembles. You can multi-track large projects, so you don't have to record them all at once, but you can do them separately with multi-mic'd parts, for example, drums. You can record multiple layers afterwards. You can overdub parts later on, and you have more chance to experiment with ideas because you're not limited to only a few tracks. So in this next part of the video, we're going to be looking at recording a drum kit. So the limitations that we have for this scenario are that we only have 4 microphones available. So we have a standard drum kit setup here with a kick snare, 3 toms, a hi-hat, and a cymbal. So we want to capture the overall sound of the drum kit. And to do this, we're going to use 2 microphones placed over the top of the drum kit so they capture the whole sound. And these are going to be spaced equally apart from the snare drum. And this is known as a space pair technique. So there will be a space pair to capture the overheads. This will give us the whole sound of the drum kit, and it will be in stereo. So we can pan these left and right to get a stereo capture of the drum kit so that the hi-hat is to the left, and then we move over to the toms and the crash cymbal on the right. We're also going to want to close mic the kick and the snare, placing microphones close to these 2 drums to add definition to the sound. The kick drum will carry the low end, and the snare is really prominent in keeping the beats. The kick and the snare are really important as they're played most of the time. Using this technique, we should get a really good sound from this drum kit with only using 4 microphones. So what type of microphone are we going to use? Now we generally have 2 choices here, dynamic or condenser. Now ideally we'd use a mixture of both. Our condensers for the overheads, as they have a flatter frequency response and be able to pick up a wider range of frequencies capturing the overall sound of the kit, whereas the dynamics can deal with the high volume, the high sound pressure levels coming from those close mics. However, if you only had to choose one, a dynamic would be the best, as it would be maybe damaging to condenser microphones to use them as close mics. Now, other than the drum kit, you will obviously need for this 4 dynamic microphones, 4 stands, 4 XLR cables, and possibly more depending how far away that the drum kit is, a pair of headphones for the drummer to listen back to the click track, and a 4-channel interface at least. So to record this, you actually need quite a lot of equipment, and it can take a long time to set up and can be quite difficult to capture a really good sound. The alternative method would be to use an electric drum kit. This obviously requires that you have an electric drum kit, but you do not need to use any microphones or any of the other equipment. You would just need a USB cable to record the MIDI from the drum kit to the computer. So as you can see, the equipment actually needed for this method is so much less. And one major benefit of this is that you can replace the drum sounds and change the drum sounds after you've recorded it because it's just a MIDI file. Whereas with the acoustic drum kit recording with microphones, what you've recorded is what you've got. You can't do anything to change that afterwards. So with this, you could edit the MIDI pattern after recording or even quantize it really quickly. It would also take a lot less time to do and record. Another benefit would be the fact that it would be completely silent other than the sticks hitting the shells, which doesn't create that much noise. So you could do this in many different environments and it would be much easier to move it about to record. When recording, you will always prefer to use headphones to monitor the performance. Now, this is especially important when you're using microphones because it will reduce the amount of bleed, the additional sounds that you don't want to record being picked up. So if a drummer is listening to a click track and they're playing along, if you had the click track playing out aloud, the microphones would pick that up and then that would ruin your actual recording because you don't want that to be captured. So headphones are really useful because the drummer could listen to a click track, they can hear the backing track, and it will also reduce the bleed that goes into the microphones.